This entire video has been created to share some great knowledge regarding an engine which is a Delta 2.5 or a Delta 2.7 which belongs to the Hyundai, either a Santa Fe or a Tiburon. Now you have a 2.7 block, and unfortunately you cannot use that block. You could use a 2.5 block, but you need to be very careful with the heads, your heads. If it is a 2.5 liter head, it is excellent, but if it's a 2.7 head, you need to be very careful, because you need to make sure that during the compression stroke and during the exhaust stroke, you need to ensure that your cams are behaving properly and not overlapping, or the idea of monitoring this process is to make sure that the valves are not projecting too much, not getting in too deep where it goes and touches the piston crown. So you need to be very careful. Your measurements should be perfect. You need to use your micrometer well, you need to use your vernier caliper well, and that's where the entire trick is. You need to be very good with your measurements, and it is very important that you make sure your cams on the exhaust stroke are depressed and opening the valves and not touching the piston crown, as well as the cams on the compression strokes are free, not touching the lifters, and making sure that the valves are not touching the piston crown. Okay, your timing should be perfect. Your timing, the mark on the timing gears on the left and right bank should be matching the marking on the valve mechanism, valve cover, and it should be on top dead center. You need to make sure that whether you are on the compression stroke or the exhaust stroke, it is very important that you time when you are on the compression stroke. Once your timing is perfect, you can then release the timing pin and lock it in that position. So make sure you always have a marking on the block saying 2.5, 2.7. That is good. So you can use that block for a 2.5 or 2.7, but you need to ensure the liner sizes. The liner sizes of a 2.5 liter is around 83 millimeter, and the liner sizes of 2.7 is around 86 millimeter plus. So theoretically you cannot use a 2.5 liner block to make a 2.7 or vice versa. So you need to be very careful, but you can use a 2.5 block, you can use a 2.7 head, but as I said, you need to be very careful with the measurements. Ideally everything 2.7 is good, ideally everything 2.5 is good, but a 2.5 engine can be installed on a Hyundai Tiburon. Thank you, and I hope you will enjoy the complete making of this 2.5 block happen and work as it should be. Thank you very much. There's a lot of experience to be shared in here, and you keep watching us and also gain the knowledge that we have gained from this beautiful experience. Thank you very much. Okay, going to fix that 2.7 liter V6 Delta engine. It's going to sit on that Hyundai. Okay, all the best. Finally got to build this V6 2.7 liter. Pretty tough job, but let me see how I go. So this is one side of the head. You hear me?
Yep.
And then we have the other side of the head.
Yep.
There's a 2.7 Delta up in the air. It belongs to the Hyundai. Wow, that's the page to use.
If you turn around, yep.
Yeah, okay. Alright, so we're grinding the valve. Okay, so this is a well lapped valve in there. Okay, perfect, thank you. That's the well lapped seat, and this is the old one.
Yep.
Yet to be lapped.
That's it.
Okay. There she is, getting a good clean up. Okay. A lot of work, a lot of work. After the clean, looking pretty clean. That's a good job, I think. Perfect. All lined up, camshaft caps, rings, valves, oil sump. Doesn't look that good, right?
Nah.
Problem time. Sump is bad. Need to change this part now. Oh my god. That's the engine stand to swap the sumps. Engine is off now. Sitting on its beautiful stand. A lot of work there, baby. Okay, turn it around. A better way to open the crankcase. There you go. The sump is out. Beautiful crankshaft. Oil suction. The cone rods. And the gears. Okay, good cleanup. Okay, compressing the spring and you're putting the lock in.
Can you drop in there? Be nice. I'll try.
So it's cleaning, 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 and cleaning. There you go. Cleaning, cleaning, cleaning.
Oh, same. I wouldn't go over there.
Cleaning, 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 cleaning. That's an important number. Time for the gasket. Very good. Time for the cover. Oh, that's the sump cover. Okay. Good job. Good job. Fantastic. All right. I'm not allowed to say okay, so let's say all right. Okay.
Okay.
That's a beautiful part number of the Hyundai. Remember. The oil pan suction line. Okay, that's the sump. Alright. Okay. All should have number 7 out here, correct?
Yep.
Okay, that's good. And that's what happens when you drive stupidly. Pretty much a bent con rod. You change the water pump. That's pretty good, eh? So this is your water pump?
Yes.
Okay. Looks good. What a disaster this one, water pump. Show me the new one. Hey, pretty good, eh? We're going to rebuild this 2.7 Delta. Let's do this beautiful breakfast with some crushed pepper. Yeah, it's always good to have a good hearty breakfast. Okay. Good morning, this is day 2. Going to fix that 2.7 Delta. A great engine, a lot of detail involved in that engine, very intricate. It is a great opportunity to work with Mr. D.
No, it's not.
Good, clean, perfect. That's going to go in that one. So this is a 2.5. Cleaning, cleaning, cleaning. This 2.7 is now a 2.5, but you need to clean it pretty well. Okay, good clean as much as possible. Don't leave any dirt in. And this engine 2.5 will go into this blue beauty. You can see those movement of the pistons, two at one time. Cleaning, cleaning, cleaning. Unfortunately, a 2.7 had to become a 2.5, but yeah, number one piston, top dead center. That's the marking. That's the marking, and that's beautiful delta. 2.5.
They even come out with the 1.8 diesel.
So we've taken off 20 thou of this.
Yep.
20 thou of each side of the block, and 20 on the other. So that's the
Valve
valve
stem
seals.
seals. Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Like you can
Old engine.
see the little spring,
Yeah.
and then yeah, valve just slides in.
From would that be just because it's the old oil and
Aspect of the engine.
yeah, that's a kit.
So that's the intake, exhaust. Exhaust is always smaller.
Yep. Keep going there.
Okay, the head is now almost ready. All the valves in place.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the
Double pin.
okay, just put one.
Talking time. You can see here very clearly 18 foot-pounds, minus 90 degrees, plus 18 foot-pounds, 55 degrees, 55 degrees. That's how you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and on and on. Second head is in.
Here is it.
Looks pretty good.
Give it maybe one big hit.
All new bolts in with new washers. Yeah, a little bit of oil would be great. All the cams are lined up now. The inlet, the exhaust bit, the chains are well cleaned. All the seals are ready. Good to go. Happy days. Plungers,
Lifters.
lifters. Okay, you got it right.
Lifters. Tap it.
With two cams. Do I need to go dot to dot or dot ups?
All the lifters are now in place. One for the exhaust, one for the intake. So that's the intake. Okay. And that's the lifters for your exhaust. And those are the lifters for your intake. Almost getting there. Intake manifold. Okay, timing,
Bit of gasket glue.
dot to dot, the darker link, dot to dot, the darker link, and of course number one piston on compression stroke. Cam shafts are in place. Make sure this arrow mark right hand head is done. You see there? Right hand. Time for the left hand. Okay, so it's, oh sorry,
No, you're alright. We still got to centralise them properly anyway.
pin to pin. So they pin to pin. Need some good oil in there. Pretty good.
Injectors.
Crankshaft, number 1 piston, TDC, lock pin for the timing belt in place, and the gears, you will see this is to match with this marking and this one with this marking. Well, I'll tell you the rest later. Timing belt in place, all the marks are perfect, and then tool this lock pin, this one. Okay, that's looking pretty. Timing in place, time belt in place, number 1 piston TDC, and the lock in place. Okay, waiting to sit in this beautiful Tiburon. The story of this 2.5, 2.7 Tiburon is going to be very interesting and very informative for everybody. This is how you want to make a 2.7 Delta V6, and you don't have enough parts to complete it, but you have a V6 Delta 2.5 that you think you can manage to make it with a few parts from the 2.7. It can work, it is going to work, and we are going to make it work, and I will run you through this process. Continue watching this video, and the story starts here. Building a 2.7 Delta that sits inside a Tiburon. It's a 6-cylinder and a beautiful engine by itself, but when you try to do this 2.7 and unfortunately you get parts of a 2.5, you can put all this together, but you need to make sure that the heads are from a 2.7. you can swap heads to a 2.5, but the cylinder dimensions of a 2.5 is different from a 2.7. 2.7 is larger than a 2.5. So we put all this together and we made sure that we build this 2.5 that is fit for purpose, and it's definitely the way to go. But we just need to make sure that the heads are of course they are identical. They can be swapped from the 2.5 to 2.7, but we need to ensure that the cams, the lobes of the cams, the measurements are checked twice, and ensure that they are sitting thoroughly properly with the caps, and the direction of the caps has to be identical to how you took it off. You put it back the same way. So a 2.5 can be achieved with a 2.7 head, and of course you can use a 2.7 cam. So this is how we are trying to build this 2.5 Delta that will sit inside this beautiful blue Tiburon, and I will run you through the whole story of how all this works, how we put everything together with the help of the master mechanics of the trade, Dave and Jeremy, along with Leander. We all got together and managed to nut it out and sort it out and put it all together in one piece, and we are going to hopefully crank that Tiburon hopefully today. It's day 3, fingers crossed, and let's see how we go. Thank you for all the support, and thank you for trying to make this happen. Thank you for joining me to make this project a successful one. Thank you and all the best. I will crank the engine for you, and that's going to be soon. 3, and Millie is driving me to the shop. Thanks for the ride, and hopefully crank the engine today. There's some trouble here. It's broken the stud. All going to be good. That's where you identify your 2.7 block, but be careful, you need to measure. That's where you identify your 2.7. See, it's 86, okay, and your 2.5 will be 83. So that's how small your 2.5 will be. So no matter what figure you have here, you make sure your liner size. All right, finally got this bolt out. Now we're going to put the helicoil in there, and let's see, hope it goes on well. Yeah, that's the helicoil. That's the one. All the covers are in, and here you can see the indication TDC, and it should correspond with this marking on this pulley. It's time to disengage now. There she is, the V6 beauty, almost boxed up. The 2.5 liter was 2.7, the 2.5 will go into this beautiful Hyundai Tiburon. Watch the next phase, it's going to be quite interesting with the gearbox. All going to go in and going to be pretty fast. So, sandwich plate,
If you put the bolt in first,
flywheel, okay.
over there.
Yeah, you can borrow the ute. You can.
Make sure you have the sandwich plate, the flywheel in there, and torque it to specs. Okay, that should be good.
100 meters.
Clutch, pressure plate, okay. Yeah, just making sure the forks are in place. It looks like it's in there. Don't you? Looks it. Okay, that's day 4 of this engine rebuild, and we are going to try to smash it out today. We're going to try to get the 2.5 Delta engine cranked today, sitting inside a Hyundai Tiburon. Thank you and see you later. Need to jack that up before we put the engine in, so that we can take off the wheels and give it enough space.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Okay.
Take the jack out or keep the
Jack can come out. Melbourne area, I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
But
Oh, there the wheels are off. So you need to take off your CV shaft from both the sides and take off the assembly from the strut. You move out your single caliper and the brake assembly so that you make enough room to install your engine and communicate it with the CV shaft, constant velocity shaft.
Yep.
Sorry for the power steering, and then the air chrome. So that one goes in there, and this one goes in there. That one goes in there.
You ready?
Okay, ready to lower. Coming down slowly. Finally, line this up. So, engine in, all this in, spark plugs in, wiring loom in, radiator at the moment, and aircon, foundations, fan shrouds are in, intake manifold in. That's the CV shaft being greased. There you go, nicely greased. Make sure you put your rubber boot in place. Tighten these bolts. And most important, your ABS sensor has to be installed on both the sides. Time for the coolant. Time for the oil now. We are getting into day 5 now. It's the crank angle sensor that's troubling us. Let us see what's going to happen next. I'll keep you posted. That's the troublemaker. Let's see how we go once we put this in place.